The night holds a different kind of silence, doesn't it? A thick, heavy quiet where every creak of the house, every rustle outside, seems to carry a whispered secret. Tonight, we're going to lean into that silence and let some of those secrets find their way to you. We'll be traveling down roads less taken and perhaps more watched. So go ahead, turn off the lights, settle in, put on your headphones. Let the darkness be your companion as we explore the unsettling truths that lurk just beyond the veil of the ordinary. Prepare to question what you see and what you only think you see. The headlights in my rearview mirror were too bright, even for a newer model truck, reflecting off the damp asphalt and making it hard to see anything else. It was almost 2 a.m., and I was driving home to Wichita from visiting my sister at college in Arkansas, a trip I'd done dozens of times. My old Honda Civic was pushing it, probably a little over the speed limit, but I just wanted to be home. The highway was deserted, which wasn't unusual for I-135 at that hour once you got past Newton. I had my audiobook playing low, a true crime one, which probably wasn't the best choice for a lonely drive, but it usually kept me awake. I'd been on the road for about 4 hours, and fatigue was starting to set in. The truck behind me was still there, a solid beam of light, not gaining, not losing. A mark, by the way, 23, working retail, saving up for something better. This particular trip was actually a bit of a detour because my usual route was closed for construction. This meant an extra hour on smaller, state highways before rejoining the main interstate, which was probably why the road felt even more desolate than usual. I remember thinking that the truck must have been doing the exact same detour, or maybe they just lived further out. It was a big pickup, lifted maybe, with those aftermarket headlights that just burn into your retina. I tried adjusting my mirror, but it didn't help much. I just figured they were in as much of a hurry as I was, and we were both just trying to get through the night. About 20 minutes later, somewhere south of Emporia, I noticed the truck was still there. Same distance, not closer, not further. My speed hadn't changed, not really. I'd sped up a little, slowed down a little, but they maintained that exact same pocket of space behind me. It wasn't tailgating, not aggressive, just persistent. On a highway this empty, you usually see cars come and go. People pass or they turn off. But this truck was a shadow, a constant, too bright presence. I started to wonder if I was just being paranoid, if the late hour was messing with my head. I decided to test it just a little. I gradually increased my speed, pushing the Civic to 80, then 85. The truck stayed right there, a perfect mirror image of my acceleration. That's when I saw it. I glanced up at my rear view, my eyes stinging a little from the glare, and for a split second, I saw a head in the passenger side window of the truck. It was angled towards my car. It wasn't just a blurred shape. It was clearly a human head, very still. My heart gave a little jolt. I immediately looked again, but it was gone, or at least obscured by the glare and the rain starting to pick up. I told myself it was just the angle, or maybe some reflection, or maybe the driver had a passenger and they just happened to be looking out. But the way it was angled, directly at my car, and how suddenly it disappeared, left me with a bad feeling in my stomach. I tried to rationalize it, of course. Maybe the passenger had just leaned back. Maybe I was overtired. But the image of that head, still and facing me, wouldn't leave my mind. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My audiobook, which had been a comforting background noise, now felt intrusive. I turned it off. The silence in the car was suddenly heavy, only broken by the hum of the road and the wipers. I checked my side mirrors. Nothing different, just a big, dark truck with blazing headlights. I kept my speed steady, not wanting to slow down and invite them closer, but also not wanting to speed up and make it seem like I was running. I just wanted them to pass or turn off or disappear. But they didn't. They just stayed, a perfectly calibrated distance behind me, for what felt like forever. The next time I looked in the rear view, I tried to be more deliberate. I focused, squinting through the rain and the light, and there it was again. The head. Same position, same still angle, peering out from the passenger window of the truck. It wasn't moving, wasn't shifting, just observing. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't a trick of the light. This wasn't my imagination. There was someone in that passenger seat, looking straight at my car. My mind raced, trying to come up with a logical explanation. Were they trying to get my attention? Was something wrong with my car? But why not flash their lights? Why not try to pass? It felt like a silent, unnerving surveillance, miles from any town, any exit, any other human being. A cold dread began to spread through me. I kept glancing back, unable to tear my eyes away from the mirror for too long. Each time the head was there, it wasn't just observing. It felt like an unblinking stare, even through the distance and the rain. My hands were sweating on the wheel. I considered pulling over, but the thought of stopping on a deserted highway with that truck behind me was even more terrifying. What would I do? What would they do? I felt a sudden, intense surge of adrenaline. I needed to get away. I pushed the gas, hard, my Civic groaning as it hit 90, then 95. I watched the mirror, my heart hammering. The truck accelerated with me, perfectly. It didn't gain, it didn't fall back. It just matched my speed, that silent passenger still in view, staring. That's when the real horror kicked in. In my frantic glances, trying to see the passenger, I had also been trying to see the driver. But I hadn't. Not once. The driver's side of the truck was just a dark blur. Too far away. Too obscured by the bright headlights and the rain. But the passenger was always clearly visible, always there. I slammed on the brakes for a second. A desperate, stupid move. My tires squealed, and the Civic lurched. The truck behind me braked too, its headlights dipping slightly, but maintaining that same impossible distance. No screech of tires from them, no sudden swerve. Just a smooth, controlled adjustment. And the passenger was still there, still looking. I drove like a maniac for the next 20 minutes, pushing my car past its limits. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel straight. Every time I looked in the mirror, the truck was there, headlights burning, that silent passenger staring. Then, as I finally saw the sign for the turnoff to the main interstate, the rain suddenly intensified into a downpour. A thick sheet of water that momentarily obscured everything. When it cleared a second later, the truck was gone. Completely. Vanished. There were no exits, no turns, no other cars. Just an empty, soaking wet highway behind me. I slowed down, my breath coming in ragged gasps, and pulled off at the next gas station, my whole body trembling. I waited there for an hour, but nothing. Just the sound of the rain and the lonely hiss of the tires on the wet pavement. I never saw that truck or that passenger again. But every time I drive on a dark, empty road, I can still feel that stare in my rearview mirror. Sometimes the most terrifying things aren't the monsters that chase you, but the ones that just watch. The ones that appear in the periphery, fading before you can be sure. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else is out there, just beyond the edge of your sight, waiting for you to look away? The thing about driving late at night, especially when you're miles from anywhere, is how the silence just seeps in. It was past 2 a.m., and I was making good time on I-70 through eastern Colorado, heading back to Denver after visiting my folks in Kansas. My old Honda Civic was purring along, cruise control set, and the only company I had was the faint glow of the dashboard and the occasional distant rumble of a semi. I remember checking my rearview mirror, just a habit, really, to see if anyone was gaining on me. And there they were, 2 bright pinpricks of light, far back, but definitely there, reflecting steadily in the dark glass. Just another late-night driver, I figured, probably doing the same long haul as me. Nothing to think twice about, especially not out here where the towns are tiny blips separated by vast stretches of prairie. I'm Mark, I was 26 at the time, and I'd made this drive dozens of times. It's usually a peaceful, almost meditative experience. Just you and the road. This particular stretch of I-70 is known for being incredibly flat and straight for what feels like forever. You can see for miles ahead and behind. So, when I checked my mirror again a few minutes later, those same 2 pinpricks of light were still there, still distant, still following. They hadn't gotten any closer, but they hadn't fallen back either. It was like they were perfectly matching my speed, which was a little odd since I was going about 5 over the limit, and most people out here tend to fly. I shrugged it off. Maybe they were just trying to conserve gas, or perhaps they had their own cruise control set to my exact speed. Another 15 minutes passed. I was listening to an old podcast, something about unsolved mysteries. Ironically enough, my eyes drifted to the mirror again. The lights, still there, still the exact same distance. It was starting to get a little weird now. On a road this empty, you usually pass people or get past. There's a natural ebb and flow. But these lights were just constant, like a fixed point behind me, moving only as I moved. I pressed down a little harder on the gas, pushing my Civic up to 80 miles per hour. My car wasn't exactly built for speed, and I usually avoided pushing it, but I just wanted to see what would happen. Would they speed up? Would they fall back? I watched the mirror, my heart giving a small, anticipatory thump. They sped up, just enough to maintain the gap. It wasn't aggressive, wasn't tailgating. It was just precise, too precise. My logical brain tried to find an explanation. Maybe it was a state trooper just pacing me. But if it was, why hadn't they pulled me over yet? And if they weren't, why were they so intent on maintaining this exact, unchanging distance? It felt less like another driver and more like an echo. I eased off the gas, returning to my original speed. The lights behind me did the same, slowing down to keep that same, unnerving gap. It was like we were connected by an invisible string, a silent, unwilling convoy on the dark, empty highway. I started checking my GPS for the next exit, even though I knew the road well. There wasn't one for another 20 miles, just endless dark fields stretching out on either side. The thought of being trapped on this road, with whatever this was behind me, began to prick at me. It wasn't fear, not yet. More like a deep unease. I tried to convince myself it was just another driver. Maybe they found my pace comfortable or they were distracted. But the consistency was what got me. No swerving, no temporary changes in speed. Just those 2 lights, perfectly mirroring my journey. The podcast chatter in my ears suddenly felt too loud, too cheerful. A stark contrast to the growing quiet dread in the car. Finally, I saw the sign for a gas station and a truck stop coming up. Relief washed over me. This was it. I would pull in, get some gas, maybe a coffee, and watch them drive past. Prove to myself it was nothing. I signaled early, merging into the right lane. My eyes were glued to the mirror. The headlights behind me also signaled, moving into the right lane with me. Cold knot formed in my stomach. No, this wasn't just a coincidence anymore. They were following. I took the exit, slowing down for the ramp. They followed, their lights now closer, brighter, revealing a dark sedan of some kind, but too far back in the gloom to make out details. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled up to a gas pump, trying to act casual, like I hadn't noticed them. In my peripheral vision, I saw the dark sedan drive past the pumps, slowly, without stopping. It went to the far end of the parking lot, past the convenience store, and parked in the darkest corner, near the edge of the field. No lights came on inside, no doors opened. It just sat there, a dark, silent hulk. I fumbled with my gas cap, my hands shaking slightly. My heart was pounding now, a frantic drum against my ribs. I had to see who it was. I had to know. The gas pump clicked, signaling it was full, but I stood there, frozen, staring at the dark car in the distance, waiting. Minutes crawled by. The only sounds were the distant hum of the highway and the occasional rumble of a semi pulling into the truck stop. Still, no movement from the sedan. No one got out, no interior lights flickered on. It was just waiting, like it knew I was watching. I couldn't bring myself to go inside the store, couldn't turn my back on that car. What if they got out while I was in there? What if they were waiting for me to leave my car unattended? The silence of the night, usually so comforting on these drives, now felt heavy, oppressive, amplifying every beat of my racing heart. I felt completely exposed under the harsh fluorescent lights of the gas station, a beacon in the darkness. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I paid at the pump with my card, got back in my car, and pulled out of the gas station. I drove slowly, intentionally, glancing at the mirror. The dark sedan remained parked, unmoving. A wave of relief washed over me, so potent it made me lightheaded. I must have been paranoid. It was just some random person, maybe resting, maybe waiting for someone. I merged back onto I-70, picking up speed, telling myself it was over, that I just overreacted. The highway was still empty, vast, and dark. I adjusted my rearview mirror, a final check before settling in for the rest of the drive. And that's when I saw it. Not in my rearview mirror, not behind me. In my side mirror, a reflection of my own passenger window. And pressed against the glass, just barely visible in the faint glow of my tail lights, was a face. Pale, gaunt, with wide, dark eyes staring directly at me. It was inside my car. I screamed, a raw, involuntary sound that tore from my throat. My foot slammed on the brake, my tires screeching as the car swerved violently. I remember the smell of burning rubber, the lurch, and then the sickening thud as my car hit the guardrail. Everything went black for a moment, then a searing pain in my head. When I came to, dazed and disoriented, the passenger seat was empty. My car was totaled. The dark sedan was nowhere to be seen. But every time I drive alone at night now, I still check that passenger window just in case, because I know what I saw, and I know it wasn't just a reflection. You might think you're alone in your car, driving through the quiet hours. But the road has its own memory, its own strange awareness. And sometimes that awareness isn't content to simply observe. It reaches out just a little to let you know you're not as solitary as you believe. The thing that was wrong wasn't the car behind me, not at first. It was the absolute silence of the road, the kind of silence you only get when you're driving through 100 miles of nothing at 3 in the morning, where even your own car feels too loud. I was 22, fresh out of college, driving from my parents' place in rural Iowa to my new apartment in Denver, a drive I'd done a few times before. This leg was the worst. Long stretches of blacktop through Nebraska, mile markers blurring into an endless numerical countdown to nowhere. I had started early to beat the heat, hoping to catch the sunrise over the Rockies. But now I was just catching the lonely, unforgiving darkness that swallowed everything outside my high beams. My coffee was cold, and the only company was the hum of the engine and the faint, almost imperceptible glow in my rearview mirror. That glow in the mirror, it wasn't a sudden appearance. It had been there for a while, a steady pair of lights, perfectly centered. Too perfectly centered now that I thought about it. I'd first noticed them maybe an hour back, when I was still making good time and feeling optimistic. I figured it was just another late-night traveler, probably someone else trying to get somewhere before the sun baked the pavement. No big deal. We were both on this vast, empty ribbon of road, and there was plenty of space for everyone. I checked my speed, making sure I wasn't inadvertently holding anyone up, but I was cruising at a solid 75, well within the limit and a good pace for the long haul. The lights remained, a fixed point in the endless black behind me, neither gaining nor losing ground. After another 20 minutes, a slow unease started to creep in. The car wasn't passing me. It wasn't falling back. It was just there. Constant, unwavering distance. On a straight highway like this, with no turns or traffic lights for miles, it felt unnatural. Most drivers either pass you if they're faster, or they eventually disappear behind you if you're faster. This one was doing neither. I tried to dismiss it. Maybe they were just trying to conserve gas by drafting, or maybe they just like to maintain a steady following distance. My mind went through all the rational explanations, trying to force a sense of normalcy onto something that was slowly starting to feel very abnormal. I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter, my knuckles whitening slightly, and told myself it was just fatigue playing tricks on me. I decided to test it. I eased off the gas just a little, letting my speed drop by about 5 miles an hour. My intention was to see if they'd either pass me or fall back. The car behind me did neither. Its headlights, a bright, almost blinding white, maintained their exact position in my mirror. It was as if we were connected by an invisible rope, pulled taut at a fixed length. My heart started to beat a little faster. This wasn't drafting. No one drafts for 40 miles on an empty road without making a move. This wasn't a coincidence. This was deliberate. I put my foot back down, accelerating slightly, pushing my speed to just over 80. The car behind me matched it instantly, perfectly. No hesitación, no lag. Just a silent, relentless echo. My breath hitched. My eyes darted to my side mirrors, then back to the rear view. The bright, almost aggressive glare of those headlights filled every reflective surface, making it impossible to see anything specific about the vehicle itself. It was just light, pure, unblinking light. I tried to peer through the glare, squinting, trying to make out a make or model, a shadow of a driver, anything. But there was nothing. No discernible shape, no flicker of a person in the driver's seat. Just a perfect, impenetrable wall of light. It felt like I was being followed by a pair of disembodied headlights, floating through the darkness, tethered to my bumper by some unseen force. The isolation of the highway suddenly felt less like freedom and more like a trap. I was truly miles from anywhere, and whatever was behind me knew it. I pushed the accelerator further, wanting to lose them. 90, 95, 100. My old sedan protested with a whine, but I didn't care. My focus was locked on the rear view, waiting for the gap to widen, for the lights to shrink. They didn't. They stayed exactly the same, a fixed, unblinking stare. The terror wasn't from speed, or even from danger, but from the impossible precision. No human driver could maintain that exact distance, matching every micro-adjustment, every subtle variation in my speed, for so long. It was robotic, inhuman. And then, a horrible thought clawed its way into my mind. If they could match me at 100, why hadn't they passed me earlier? They clearly had the capability. They just chose not to. They wanted to follow. They wanted me to know they were there. Up ahead, I saw a sign for a tiny town, just a dot on the map. It was miles out of my way, adding at least an hour to my drive, but I didn't care. I needed to get off this highway to break the connection. I slammed on my turn signal and swerved hard into the exit lane. The car behind me, without a moment's hesitation, also signaled and veered off, mirroring my move perfectly. There was no screech of tires, no sudden swerve, just a smooth, calculated follow. We descended the off-ramp, my tires squealing slightly, and as I looked in my mirror, those headlights were still there, still perfectly centered, still unblinking. We were now on a narrow, two-lane road, darker than the highway, lined with skeletal trees. The silence outside my car was absolute, broken only by the engine and my own ragged breathing. I drove for another few minutes, the small town still a distant promise. if it even existed. The road was curving, unfamiliar, and I was getting lost, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't let them get closer. Then, up ahead, a stop sign. No cross traffic, just a silent, isolated intersection in the middle of nowhere. My only choice was to stop. I did, slamming on the brakes. The car behind me stopped too, perfectly. We sat there, two cars facing a silent intersection. The only sound the ticking of my cooling engine. The headlights in my mirror were still on, full blast, but they no longer felt aggressive. They just felt observant, waiting. I looked around, desperate for anything, a house, a light, another car. Nothing, just the endless dark, and those two unwavering points of light in my mirror watching. I braced myself, took a deep breath, and jammed the car into reverse, hitting the gas. My tires shrieked as I backed up quickly, turning my head to get a better look at what was behind me. But as I spun around, there was nothing. The road was empty. No car, no headlights, just the faint red glow of my own taillights reflecting off the empty pavement. My reverse lights illuminated the asphalt for about 50 feet, revealing absolutely nothing. It was gone. I sat there, my car idling, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The silence that followed was even worse than the chase. I pulled forward, drove through the intersection, and found the town a few minutes later, pulling into the first brightly lit gas station. I didn't look in my rearview mirror for the rest of the night, and I still don't trust the dark spots in my mirrors on a lonely road. The journey never truly ends, does it? Even when you pull into your driveway, the miles you've covered can leave an imprint. A faint echo that follows you home. A phantom vibration that suggests the road itself has a heart, beating slowly, menacingly, in the darkness. The first thing I noticed wasn't the truck itself, but the way its headlights seemed to pulse. Not flashing, not dimming, but a subtle, almost imperceptible ebb and flow, like a slow breath, in my rearview mirror. I was 22, driving home from my grandmother's house in rural Nebraska, a good 5-hour drive back to Lincoln. It was well past midnight, and the highway, US 81, was a black ribbon unspooling under a vast, starless sky. My phone was dead. The charger port in my old Ford Focus had decided to quit somewhere around Grand Island, and I hadn't seen another car going either direction for at least 45 minutes. Just me, the hum of my tires, and now these odd, pulsing lights maybe a mile back, steadily gaining. At first, I didn't think much of it. Long stretches of highway out here, people drive fast. It was probably a semi-truck, those things are always barreling down the road. I kept my speed steady, around 70 miles per hour, which felt like flying on the empty road. But the lights didn't just pass. They kept coming closer, slowly, inexorably. It wasn't an aggressive tailgating, more like a deliberate, measured closing of the distance. The pulsing was still there, a soft, almost hypnotic rhythm in the dark glass. I tried to dismiss it as an optical illusion, maybe just my eyes playing tricks after hours of staring into the night. But the pattern was too consistent. After what felt like 10 minutes, the lights were much closer, now clear enough to tell it was indeed a large truck, probably a semi, but I couldn't make out any details beyond its sheer size. The pulsing was more pronounced now, like two giant, yellowing eyes blinking slowly in the darkness. I checked my speedometer again. Still 70. I hadn't slowed down, so it wasn't me, and it still wasn't passing. It just hovered there, maybe 3 or 4 car lengths behind me. It was too close to be comfortable, yet not close enough to be overtly threatening. Felt observational, like it was waiting for something or just watching. I tried to speed up, just a little, pushing it to 75. The truck matched me. I eased off the gas, down to 65, hoping it would pass. It slowed with me. This was when the first real chill started to crawl up my spine. This wasn't normal truck behavior. They either pass you or they fall back. They don't just pace you on an empty highway for miles and miles. The road was straight, flat, and wide open. There was no reason not to pass. The pulsing lights, now filling my entire rear window, seemed to grow in intensity, though it might have just been my imagination. My hands felt clammy on the steering wheel. I started checking my side mirrors, trying to get a better look, but the glare from the truck's lights was too strong. All I could see was the vast, imposing grille and those two slowly pulsing headlamps. I tried to tell myself it was just some tired trucker, trying to stay awake, maybe playing a weird game, but the isolation of the highway amplified everything. No cell service, no towns for another 40 miles, just endless cornfields stretching into the inky blackness. I felt like I was the only person awake in the world, and this truck was the only other thing. The silence in my car, broken only by the hum, felt oppressive. Then it started to drift. Not to pass, but just a slow, almost imperceptible shift towards the left lane, keeping pace, still not gaining or losing ground. It wasn't a swerve. It was a deliberate, smooth movement. It stayed there for a minute, half in my lane, half in the passing lane, its enormous bulk filling my entire field of vision. The pulsing headlights now seemed to synchronize with my own heartbeat. I felt a prickle of sweat on my forehead. This was beyond odd. This was deliberate, and it felt like it was trying to intimidate me, to box me in without actually touching me. It was a silent, unnerving dance. I tried to look for a driver, to see a face, a shadow, anything, but the cab was completely dark. No interior lights, no visible figure. Just black glass reflecting my own headlights back at me, distorted by the pulsing yellow glow of its own. It was a solid, unyielding mass of metal and darkness. The realization hit me then. I hadn't seen a single logo, a company name, anything that would identify it as a normal commercial vehicle. Just a plain, dark-colored semi, like a ghost on wheels. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just a tired driver. This was something else. Something utterly wrong. Up ahead, I saw the blessed blue sign for a state highway exit. A small town called Palmyra, probably nothing more than a gas station and a diner. I signaled hard and veered off the main road, probably faster than I should have. I watched in my mirror, expecting the truck to follow, to continue its silent pursuit. But it didn't. It kept going straight, its pulsing headlights receding into the blackness of US 81, maintaining its steady, unwavering rhythm. It didn't speed up, didn't slow down, just continued its journey into the night, as if I had never been there at all, as if I had simply blinked out of existence. I pulled into the empty parking lot of a closed gas station, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. I sat there for a long time, watching the spot where its lights had vanished. I waited for it to reappear, to circle back, but it never did. I eventually made it home, completely drained, the memory of those pulsing headlights seared into my mind. To this day, when I'm driving alone at night, on an empty stretch of road, I find myself checking my rearview mirror constantly, half expecting to see those two slow, steady pulses materialize out of the darkness, following, watching, breathing its silent rhythm behind me. These are the stories that linger, aren't they? Not because of jump scares or overt horrors, but because they plant a seed of doubt, a quiet terror that whispers, what if? What if the ordinary really does hide something sinister? What if the everyday moments are just thin veils over something far more unsettling? It's that lingering question, that unsettling possibility, that truly stays with us long after the credits roll. If you find yourself drawn to these shadows, subscribe to Scareverse for a new story every week.